Welcome to Tactical Tuesday, guys. Tonight we're continuing our joint venture January, and tonight we're going to be focusing more upon the paperwork that we actually need to be doing. So, our letter of intent, we're going to run through that. We're going to look at a joint venture agreement as well. We're going to share lots of really cool information with you guys. So, let's get started.
Hey guys, it's Corey and Tiffany, and we're the co-founders of Investor Life.
And we help investors scale their portfolios using other people's money. Fearless, welcome to another Tactical Tuesday.
Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. We have a really cool topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. This, guys, I hope is a scenario that shows you the power of leveraging your money.
We help investors take their portfolios from 2 or 3, 5 properties maybe, up to 15, 20, 50 properties if that's what they're wanting to.
Really, the sky's the limit. And we help investors scale their portfolio.
For free weekly live trainings that we do over there on Facebook. Thanks for...
Hey guys, it's Corey from Investor Life, and Tiffany just stuck out her tongue at me. Okay.
Yeah, that was a bad rendition. But guys, today, what wrecks people in real estate? We're going to be talking about that, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the continuation of Joint Venture January. So last week, if you were with us, you know that we talked about just all the beginnings, kind of laid the foundation for what a joint venture is. We also kind of ran through the numbers. How do the numbers work? Who puts in what? How do the percentages work? And how do you pay out at the end? And we kind of ran through a scenario last week as to how that works. So if you haven't seen that, go back to last week's video and catch up with us. And tonight we're continuing this theme on, and throughout the whole month of January, we're going to be talking about joint venturing. This is a strategy, guys, that Tiffany and I used to buy over 100 properties. We didn't use any of our own money. And we were able to not only accumulate these properties and make money for ourselves, but also for the partners that partnered with us, the ones that actually put the money in. We made excellent returns for them as well. So this is a real win-win type of strategy in real estate investment. And so tonight we're going to continue on this theme, and we're going to actually go through some of the paperwork that is necessary when it comes to joint venturing or raising capital. One of them is we call a letter of intent. So it's kind of just a 3-page, I think the one that we're going to go through tonight is a 3-page letter of intent, and it kind of just summarizes what the intent is for each of the parties within the joint venture. And that is kind of the paperwork or the document that is used as a foundation for building the joint venture agreement, which is actually the legal agreement that you sign off with and legalizes the whole joint venture. So that's what we're going to run through tonight. We want it to be crystal clear in your mind so that not only do you understand it, but you're able to explain it to others as well, to potential partners that might want to partner with you, whether they're giving you the money or whether they're the ones doing the work for you, depending on what side of the partnership you might be on. Okay, so it'll be a lot of fun tonight, guys, and welcome again. Thank you for saying hello, everybody that has said hello. We have viewers all across the country, from Panorama to Nova Scotia to Edmonton, and all across Canada. So welcome, guys, to another installment of Joint Venture January. And we're going to be doing themes all throughout 2024. So February, we're looking forward to, we're calling it Frequently Asked Questions February, or FAQ February, and we're going to be hitting some of the top questions and top strategies that people have questions about. And so we're looking forward to that as well next month. But we have some Facebook. Let's see here. Daryl, all the way from the Dominican, and and Darcy from Curacao. Wow. So international. Last week we had Australia and the US. So super cool. And Urshad from the Hockey Night in Canada control room. So great to have you here as well, Urshad. And all of you, whether you're in Alberta or somewhere else in the country or somewhere else in the world, we want to welcome you to our show tonight. Okay, so let's get right into it, guys, because that's what you're here for. And we're going to get started with what we call the letter of intent. And so before I share it on the screen here, before we go through all of the steps that are involved in filling this out, I just want to kind of let you know what this form is for. Okay, so this is a document that we use to sit down with potential joint venture partners. So people that we had kind of already gotten to the point of, you know what, let's plan to do something, you know, where we get along, we jive business wise, we both kind of have the same outlook, we could see ourselves working together on a project, whether it's short term or long term. So let's chat about some of the, you know, more nitty gritty stuff that we need to know beforehand, before we actually start looking for a property, or before we actually put a property under contract, or, you know, before we actually go forward to do a joint venture. What are some of the details we need to kind of iron out to make sure that we're on the same page? That's what the letter of intent is for. It's to nail down what are our intentions in this venture. Okay, that's the purpose of this. Now, as we're going through this, guys, if you have questions, throw it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. As well, Jules just shared with us the link there. If you do not have a copy of the letter of intent and you want a copy, just click on that link and fill out the form. It's just your email, your phone number, your name, and you'll have immediate access to the letter of intent. Okay, and you'll be able to use it exactly as we're talking about it tonight. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get into what a letter of intent really is all about and some of the important stuff that you need to fill out. So obviously we would get started with our date, who are the parties involved. We might put their names and address of them in here. We might use a property address, that sort of thing, to fill out in here. Pretty standard lines there. So the relationship is between who? Well, let's say this is going to be our money partner and myself. Let's say I'm going to be the working partner in this relationship. So I'm going to say my Corey's Company Inc. Okay, that's who this joint venture relationship is between. So we're just making it clear. And this is where we start off with, because we might be using a company. And it's good for our partner to know, are we going to be doing this through a company? Are we going to be doing this through our personal name, and vice versa, for you to get to know, okay, what entity is our partner going to use for this venture? So that's why we want to fill this part of it out. Who is it between? Okay, we're excited that you're interested in working with us as joint venture partners. We'll be searching for a great property. We're optimistic. This is an outline. Notice this, guys, here. This is an outline of our agreement in principle. So this isn't necessarily a legal document. This is just an outline until further paperwork is drafted. So in other words, our joint venture agreement, that would be the further paperwork that would end up getting drafted. So what are some of the details we want to know? Well, how soon are we going to buy this property? How soon is my potential money partner willing to, are they ready right now? Do they need to refinance to get some money out? Is it going to take 3 months for that to happen? Are they looking to buy something in 2024? Like, what kind of timeline are we looking for on this? So let's say, you know, we're property, you know, I have somebody that's kind of raring to go. Our property, where our plan is within the next 3 months, within 3 months from today, that's our hope, that's our intention, is to purchase a property. Now, one of the things that we have to have a discussion about, and I noticed somebody mentioned this in the chat here, and that's Sean, our mortgage broker, Sean MP. Welcome, Sean. Is he says, remember to chat with your mortgage broker when doing GV. Some wrinkles to iron out to satisfy lenders. Absolutely. So good advice there from a seasoned mortgage broker. But what kind of price range are we going to be talking about? And this is something that our mortgage broker can let us know. What can this potential money partner qualify for? So, we might be looking at this and say, okay, well, we can purchase something between 300,000 and 400,000. So we have a general idea as to what our price range is. Okay. Again, what are our intentions here? Maybe this is 1 million and 2 million. It can be whatever our intentions might be. What's looking for? Now, this is a tougher question to maybe answer. Our partners might say to us, well, I just want something that cash flows, or I just want something that is going to go up in value, or they might not know the specifics about what style of property. But that's where the real estate expert side of things comes in. That might be your job, is to figure out what works right now in our particular market and what strategy is working. So let's say we're looking for a house with a suite, okay, a 2-unit property between 300,000 and 400,000. That's what our goals are. That's what our intentions are. We don't want to go below 1,000 square feet. Maybe that's a stipulation we want to make. So we want something that's maybe 1,100 square feet or larger. That's our goal. We want something with 3 bedrooms up and 2 bedrooms down, so a minimum of 5 bedrooms. Obviously, we want a minimum of 2 bathrooms, one for each suite. And what location is this going to be? So we're looking for something in a particular market. Let's say that we decide Red Deer, Alberta is the market we want to look at, or if we can't find anything in Red Deer, maybe we will look down towards Calgary or Edmonton. We can have a few different options here, so we get an idea. We're searching in this particular case for something in the Alberta market, one of the major centers maybe. Okay, so that's kind of specifying the property. Okay, so that's fairly standard, but these are all, questions that we need to know the answers to. Both partners need to know what is it that we're looking for here to end up buying. Next section is our estimated financial contribution. So, the JV partner B will contribute approximately how much money? And okay, so now I just noticed I made a mistake, guys. So if I am going to be the working partner, then let's go back up here. I need to cut that out, and I need to be JV investor A according to this. So let me switch that, and we'll put the money partner as JV investor B. So JV partner B will contribute how much money? Well, if we are looking for 300,000 to 400,000, a house with a suite, we might be looking at, with closing costs and a reserve fund. Remember, we talked about that last week, all the things that are involved in an initial financial contribution. It's more than just a down payment. So let's say we end up buying something for $350,000, 20% down is $70,000. We might need some money for a renovation, slight renovation. We might need some money for a closing cost. So we need some money for a reserve fund. So JV partner B will contribute approximately $100,000 in this case. Nice round number. And here's the thing. The JV partner is now understanding it's more than just the down payment. Okay, so the intention is being set here where it's nice and clear that more than just the down payment is required to actually move forward with this potential property. Of course, the amount will be dependent on purchase price, closing costs, initial repairs needed. All of these costs are considered the capital investment, which the JV partner B would contribute in this case. What's the JV partner A putting in for money? Well, it says JV partner A makes a commitment to conduct and oversee all business relating to the acquisition, administration, management, and final closing on the property in lieu of a financial contribution. So it's making it clear here where the money is coming from. Okay, so again, a simple form that helps discuss some of these details for us. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story before we move on to get to go through the rest of this document. This was a document that actually really made a difference for Tiffany and I when it came to solidifying relationships. And this happened to us way back when we were first getting started. We weren't sure, how do we have this discussion? We knew that the market we were investing in was really strong. We knew that we had the desire. We knew that we understood the numbers and how everything was going to work, but we didn't really have much expertise at the very beginning. And we were being educated. We had a mentor that helped, definitely. But we were kind of like, well, what do we discuss when we sit down with a potential partner? So we actually went into Barry McGuire. He was our lawyer and kind of a mentor for us at this stage of our real estate investing career. And we sat down in his office and he said, listen, one of the easiest ways to have this conversation with somebody is to have a letter of intent in front of you. Now, whether you sit there and you fill it out with them, or whether you use it as a template of your discussion, either way, the money partner or the person you're talking to ends up getting an idea that you're covering all the bases. You're asking all the important questions. And these are the things you need to know the answers to. So we then took this letter of intent to all of our meetings from that point on. And when we were sitting with somebody and they were like, okay, so how does this work? And, how do we, well, listen, here's some of the questions we need to figure out here. And we had an outline of our discussion. Okay. It's almost like, if you're going to go and give a speech somewhere, and I'm not saying that this discussion should be a speech, but if you're going to go give a speech somewhere and you have an outline in front of you, how much easier it is to give that than if you're just winging it with nothing. And that's where this becomes really valuable, guys, is using this as that outline for a conversation. Okay, so let's go back. And once we started doing that, man, that's where the partners started to say, hey, guys, I can tell you guys have done this before. I can tell that you're covering all the bases and that my money, if that I invest with you, is going to be safe because you know what you're doing here. And that's what this simple little form can do for you. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Throw it in the chat. Let me know if this is making sense for you. Our chat has gone a little cold here, so I want to revive it again. And let me know if it is something that makes sense. And do you think this is a form that you could use sitting down and talking with a potential partner? Let me know in the chat, okay? Let's continue on. The next step, after we've talked about the initial financial contribution. So George says absolutely. So excellent, George. That's great. It will really help in any conversation that you have. George, one of our Ignited members. I'm sure you have gone through this before. Karina, extremely important. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Great tool, says Lisa. So yeah, guys, you get the point. Eric, Rihanna, haven't used it yet, but love the idea of the template. And exactly, that's a big point, and it will help you, Rihanna, as you go forward. Colleen, a letter of intent is very important. Excellent. Great, guys. That's awesome. So great to hear you're there and you're finding this valuable. So let's continue on in the form. Next section is an important one. It's a small little section. It's 2 numbers, but very important in this discussion. How are the shares of this property going to be distributed? Where does the money go? How much ownership does each partner in this joint venture have? And so in most of the joint ventures we split everything 50-50. So for the purpose of filling this out, we'll just use 50-50 in this example. And remember, guys, that is 50% of any gains made on the property. But let me give you another hint here, or another word of advice is, if you're doing a 50-50 on any gains on the property, it also includes 50-50 on any losses on the property. Now, why am I talking about losses? Well, sometimes real estate can go down in value. Sometimes you can have negative cash flow. Sometimes you can have vacancies or some sort of expense. And why would you want to have this discussion with a potential partner? Well, if they understand that they're not on the hook for 100% of every loss, but somebody else the working partner in this example is also on the hook for 50% of any losses, do you think that that would make them feel better? Yes or no? Throw that in the chat, guys. If you're a money partner and you're giving your money to somebody, a partner that's going to manage this property for you, manage this whole investment for you, would you make you feel more confident if your working partner was also taking on 50% of the risk after that initial financial contribution? Absolutely, it would, wouldn't it? And so having that explanation up front, this is how the ownership is going to be divided 50-50. We split any gains 50-50, but we also split any losses 50-50. Now that is putting a lot of ownership on the working partner, right? And now the working partner who's putting no money in, well, might have to put money in if they're not managing it properly, if they didn't find the right property, if something negative goes wrong. That risk is being divided 50-50 as well. So that's another part of this discussion that you want to have with your potential partner that really can help to solidify this relationship if they know that they are only on the hook for 50% of any losses. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Hopefully that makes sense. Good. Okay, so let's continue on here. When is our target closing date on the property? So let's say, we mentioned up here, we want to purchase the property within 3 months from today. So, we are in January 2024. So let's say we are looking for March 15th, 2024 is kind of our targeted closing date, something we're looking for, which means, and here's the thing, guys, if we kind of target a specific date, that's so much more valuable than just saying, hey, we want to do something in the next 3 months. Okay. 3 months can turn into 6, can turn into 9, can turn into 12, and could disappear. So if we actually have a date here, a target date, March 15th, we want to actually close on a property. Well, what has to happen prior to that? Prior to that, we have to find a property. We have to go through the conditional period, and then we have to wait till it closes and go through the closing period. Okay, so we really now, in this case, if we want to close on a property March 15th, we got to start looking for something right now or within the next couple of weeks. Okay, so that's where we could definitely move things forward if we actually have a targeted closing date on the property. Let's move on to the next section, which is mortgage funding. How is this going to be funded? So we had an initial financial contribution that we mentioned back in point number 2 here, but the mortgage has to come from somebody too. So who is going to be supplying or qualifying for the financing? And so Sean MP would really help with this, having an investment focused mortgage broker, guys. And that's what Sean is. But this is, again, just sharing the intention of all parties, who's going to qualify for the mortgage, and having that discussion up front. Because if we're closing by March 15th, we need to start right away getting our money partner introduced to our mortgage broker, getting them Sean's number, getting them Sean's email, and getting them introduced so that he can start looking for options as far as financing is concerned right away. So you can specify who is going to be qualifying. Maybe you're qualifying jointly. All partners want to be on title. All partners want to qualify for the financing. Maybe one of the partners is going to qualify. And of course, there's some wrinkles, as Sean mentioned, that are involved with this. And again, talking to an experienced mortgage broker, they can describe these wrinkles for you or to you. Okay, so the next section is the title on the property. So where is that going to be held? Now that's you notice that this is following our discussion of who's qualifying for the mortgage. And really, it's kind of just an extension of that, because whoever is on the mortgage or qualifying for the mortgage is going to be on title. And so again, you're clarifying, though, if only partner B, who is the money partner in this case, is qualifying for the financing solely, well, how is the joint venture partner's interest going to be secured? Okay, so a joint venture agreement secures it. But let's say the title is going to be held in the name of money partner, okay, because they qualify for the mortgage, with a caveat on title registered in Corey's company, Inc. Okay, my company is going to register the joint venture document on title. Boy, my spelling is bad. There we go. And that's how my interests are going to be secured in this particular instance. Now, of course, how this is done kind of might be different each province in Alberta. So you'd want to talk to your lawyer, your real estate lawyer, on how exactly this document can be secured. Maybe it's a caveat. Maybe you're just comfortable with having the joint venture document, since it is a legal document, and you're not going to be registering anything on title. This is a decision that you can make with your potential partner. Now, the length of hold is our next topic. And this is a big one because, how long are we going to hold this investment for? Is this going to be a 6-month thing? Is this going to be a 5-year thing? Or are we going to hold this property for the next 25 years until the mortgage is paid off and ride into the sunset? What's our plan for this property? So my suggestion for you is, if you are getting into a joint venture with a partner, it is usually something more long-term. Okay, now I myself have done joint ventures that have been 6 months to a year. We've done that more when we're maybe developing a property, or when we have bought something, renovated it, and flipped it. So we would use, in those cases, it might be more of a short-term type of joint venture. But in most cases, if you're doing a joint venture, in a lot of cases, it's going to be more of a long-term hold. And it usually takes 5 to 7 years before our long-term holds, before the mortgage gets paid down enough, before the value of the property goes up enough, before we accumulate enough cash flow to make it really, really, really worth it. It's usually between that 5 and 7 year mark. So in this particular instance, we've maybe had that discussion with our partner. We're going to say we're going to hold this property for a minimum of 5 years, so we would circle one of these maybe, till the property is increased in value by X percentage amount. So let's say we bought that $350,000 property, and it's now gone up 50%, and it's now worth $570,000. Okay. Well, we might put in here, if the property's gone up 50% in value, it could be 30%, it could be 25%. Once it hits that mark, that's when we're going to start talking about selling it. Okay, that's kind of our intention. We're going to wait until it goes up to a certain amount of money, or we're going to wait for a certain period of time. Okay, and that's kind of what our intention is. And then, this last line, it's also agreed that the investment shouldn't last beyond X number of years. Now, maybe you're just going to go until you hit that percentage. Who knows? This is a decision. Again, the purpose of this document is to have this conversation. Maybe we don't, within the next 10 years, I'm going to hit retirement, or they're going to hit retirement. They're going to want their money out. They're going to use it for other things, maybe to complete their why, maybe to travel the world, whatever it might be. So, within 10 years, for sure, I want to have my money out. Okay, so this kind of is a bit of a caveat to say that even if, minimum of 5, if it hasn't hit our 50% value yet, well, you know what? Either way, I still want to be out by 10 years. Okay, that's kind of why that is in there. Now, the next section, equity appreciation. How is that going to be split? Now, equity appreciation will be split according to the percentage split in ownership. Now, why is this here, guys? Isn't this just redundant? Yes, it is, because we've already said here that we're splitting 50-50. That's the ownership. But that doesn't mean that the equity appreciation or the mortgage pay down or the cash flow all have to be split 50-50. Okay, the ownership might be 50-50, but maybe the equity appreciation, one partner wants more. Maybe in this case, partner A is going to accept a little bit less equity appreciation. The money partner is looking for more equity appreciation. They're in a rising market. That's what's really important to them. But maybe the working partner wants a higher percentage of the cash flow. And the JV partner is not interested in the few $100s, the $500, the $1,000 a month of cash flow that it might be. They don't need that money right now. They're more looking for a higher percentage of the equity appreciation, so the mortgage pay down and the value of the property going up. Remember, the reason that we have ownership up here is to say, okay, we're 50-50 owners, but the way we split some of these things doesn't all have to be 50-50. Okay, we can change that around as well. So keep that in mind, guys. This is a scenario that worked really well for us at the very beginning when we were getting started. We needed the cash flow. We lived off of the cash flow. So we had one partner we bought a lot of properties with where we gave them a higher amount of the equity appreciation and we got 100% of the cash flow. And for us in that particular instance, for our partner in that particular instance, it made sense for both parties. And it was a win-win scenario. Okay, so those don't have to be the same percentages. Karina says, good idea to play the what if game. If someone's health changes, they need out sooner. Absolutely. So having these discussions ahead of time is really valuable, because what did we say here, guys? This could be a relationship we have for 5 to 10 years with somebody. It's a business relationship we're going to have for a long time. And we want all of these discussions to be held ahead of time if we can, so that there's no surprises. Relationships can stay positive. Okay. And notice here, we're talking about we're going to get 100% of the cash flow. It's not going to be distributed in this particular case because JV partner A, the working partner, is getting 100% of it. And so there would be no distribution. But if this was different, let's say this was being split 50-50. How often would our money partner be receiving the money? Well, if it's, let's say, a $300 a month cash flow, do you want to be writing $150 a month check? Probably not. You would let that accumulate maybe every 6 months or maybe every year. You could distribute that cash. Maybe your reserve fund is depleted a little bit in the first year, and that cash flow goes towards building up your reserve fund again to its initial amount, keeping it solid. And then anything that is above that ends up getting split once a year. I would suggest, guys, again, having this conversation so that you're not having to figure out JV partner returns every single month, because that becomes a lot of time, very time consuming. So every 6 months, once a year, once every couple of years, that's kind of what I would suggest as far as distributing cash flow. Daryl says, best way to deal with a really high season, really low season, but there's still property management fees. Who's responsible for the continued fees during the low season? So very good question, Daryl. My answer to that question is the property is responsible. So again, before you're buying this property, you're confirming that over the whole year, whether you have a high season, low season, however that ends up working, or whether it's an established rent throughout the whole year, whatever it is, that property's expenses are going to be covered by the rent or the income that property makes. Okay, so the property should be the one that is responsible for all of the fees during both seasons. Now, if there's a negative cash flow, again, that's where we had that discussion. Remember that everything positive might be split 50-50. Anything negative gets split 50-50. So both in that case would be responsible for any negative cash flow. So let's say the high season, it builds up extra money in the account. That can cover it for the low season. At the end of the year, you say, okay, this property was either negative or positive. And at that point, you either supplement the reserve fund or you distribute the cash flow, would be my suggestion there, Daryl. Great question. Okay, so point number 10, what happens upon sale or what happens upon refinance? Let me know, Daryl, if that answered your question, if I got it right. what happens? Okay, so notice it says upon sale or refinance of the property, JV partner B will receive their initial financial contribution first. This is again clarifying how the money flows. Okay, so they put in, remember back here, they put in $100,000 up here. Okay, they're going to contribute approximately 100,000. Whatever that number ends up being. Now, how is this going to be given back to them? Well, upon sale or refinance, JV partner B will receive their initial financial contribution first. So they get that as outlined in point 2. Then the remaining funds, that would be the fact that equity appreciation, it went up in value, cash flow accumulated, mortgage was paid down, will be split according to the percentages agreed above. Okay, so just again clarifying here, guys, that sometimes people get confused and they say, "Well, I'm putting $100,000 into this. We're buying this property, and upon sale, you're getting 50,000 of that back." Well, no, they get all of their money back first. Okay, if anybody, maybe there was some negative cash flow over the first 3 years, and that was split 50-50, and each put in another couple $1,000s. So they would get their initial financial contribution back first. Any other contributions, additional financial contributions that were given throughout the term that you've held this property, those are then distributed back to each partner. And then any equity appreciation, mortgage pay down would be split according to the percentage. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know if that makes sense. Urshad, do we section in JV letter who will be managing the property, PM or working partner? Absolutely. That would be more, that would be actually good to have on here. The idea of this, Urshad, is that the working partner is the one that would take care of the management. That means whether they do it themselves or whether they take care of hiring a property manager, they're involved in all of that. Now, if we go back to this right here, which is point 2, Urshad. Remember, it says here, JV partner A makes a commitment to conduct and oversee all business relating to the acquisition, administration, and management, and final closing on the property in lieu of a financial contribution. So it is talked about here that the JV partner A is involved in taking care of the management, whether they do it themselves or hire it out. If they hire it out or do it themselves, that money is going to go somewhere, either to them or to another property management company. Okay. Sam, I like how flexible this document allows us to adjust accordingly the deal to meet our money partner objectives. Absolutely, Sam. Daryl, so no monthly payouts. Hold for the breakdown of the splits at that point. This will make it easier. Absolutely, Daryl. Sean, often a good idea to set up a sustaining fund in advance to cover shortfalls typically provided by the money partner as part of their initial contribution. Absolutely. We talked about that, Sean, having a reserve fund right at the very beginning. And that is what forms this up here. Remember, they're putting in 100,000, and if we're buying a $350,000 house, the down payment's only $70,000. So, but we're letting them know that they're contributing more, and that goes towards a reserve fund. That goes towards maybe some initial repairs, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so those are the main topics, guys, that we want to talk about. And then you'll notice here on the last page, we agree to the terms and conditions of this letter of intent is a general outline for what both parties have agreed to pursue. Okay, so that's what this is. It's a general outline. This isn't a legal agreement that everyone is stuck to. But this is a general outline of to what you're pursuing, what your intentions are. And that's what a letter of intent is in all business, not just real estate investment, but in any business we might be doing. Letters of intent are used all the time to just clarify intentions. There's another important part here, guys, at the very end of our letter of intent, and that is the initial deposit on the property. So let's say the working partner, or in this case, this is Corey Company Inc., is going out to now start searching for properties. We have to close by March. Our goal is March 15th, 2024. We're starting to look for properties now, look at options. If I find something and I need to write a deposit check on that property, where's that money coming from? Well, this here now clarifies it. You notice it says initial deposit on property to be used when imminent property purchase approaches. So what normally happens here? Well, normally the working partner is the one that would take care of getting all of this done. They're the ones dealing with the realtor. They're the ones that have the relationship with the realtor. So in some cases, what happens is that initial deposit is given to the working partner. So if we're buying a $350,000 property, maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $10,000. You notice it says the initial deposit will be used to secure and hold the property once a contract has been negotiated. This will be held by whoever it might be and used for the purposes of this described in this letter of intent. Please note this is only the deposit. The remaining amount of the initial financial contribution will likely be required within 2 weeks of the closing date of the property. So we're making very clear where this money is going, what it is being used for, and timelines as to how this money is going to be used. So if it was me and I was working with a money partner, I would say this money would be held by Corey Company Inc. Amount of the initial deposit, $10,000 in this case. Check made payable to Corey Company Inc. And here's the lawyer that I'm going to use. Lawyer LLP. Okay, and contact information for my lawyer. All right, so that's what I would do. Now, some of you are going to say, well, who's going to write me a check for $10,000? I'm going to now deposit that into my company account, which is Corey Company Inc. And I'm now going to have those funds available to write a deposit check if and when we find a property. This does a couple things, guys. One, it shows that this relationship is strong. It shows that the money partner has trust in us. It shows that he's serious, he or she is serious to actually move forward. If they're willing to now write a check and they're willing to now send that money to you as a working partner, well, do you think they're serious? Do you think they're going to go forward with this? Do you think that they're really wanting this to go through? Absolutely. So this is a conversation piece at the end. Now, some might say, well, I want it to be held by a lawyer in trust. Some might say, I want it to be held by the real estate brokerage in trust, which can work as well. Then you get an idea, okay, how serious is this person? Somebody might say, well, listen, as soon as we find a property, I will send that deposit check within 2 business days. Okay, I would be okay with that too. But this starts that conversation. How are we going to deal with this? Because when we find a property, we need a deposit check ASAP, especially in Alberta. I know some other provinces you don't, but in Alberta, you need it along with the offer in a lot of cases. And so you need that money available now. And if it's a hot market, you don't have time to wait, and a deal could be lost because a deposit check doesn't reach there in time. So this is, again, a discussion that you are starting to have with your money partner to let them know some timelines as to how everything is going to work and how the money is going to be transferred here and there. Okay, so keep that section in mind too. It is there to clarify, and it is there to continue that conversation. And make this really serious. Make this really real is what we're doing by having that part of it in there. Okay, guys, so I'm now going to hit up some of your questions. If you guys have questions, throw it in the chat now. We're going to do our best to answer them. We have gone through the letter of intent, and it's taken us almost 45 minutes to do that. I wanted to show you the joint venture agreement too, which I will do, and we'll go through that very briefly. Some other points that are in our joint venture agreement. Obviously, it is more of a legal document. I think we have joint venture agreements that are 50 pages long, some that are 30 pages long. The one I'm going to show you today is only about 10 or 12 pages long, something like that. It's a simplified version, and we'll go through that one quickly. But some questions, let's see. Often a good idea to set up a sustaining fund. Okay, that we read that one already. Can a value be put on the amount of work that the working partner puts in relation to how much money the money partner puts in? Yeah, so that value, there's a ton of value in the work that a working partner is putting in. So Cindy, you're asking that question. The working partner, in a lot of cases, you could say, okay, what's worth more, 100,000 or working for the next 10 years on a property? What's worth more, $50,000 or working for free for the next 10 years, making a little bit of cash flow on a property, depending on the property that is purchased. Some properties are super simple. Some properties require a lot of maintenance and a lot of tenants going in and out. And maybe it's a student rental that you have to deal with 10 students living in a property. Or maybe it's a turnkey brand new property and you are going to have a family living there for 10 years and they treat it like their home. So some investments require more work than others. And so that's a determination that the working partner needs to make as well. Remember, when you're having these discussions, the working partner obviously has to value what they're putting in. That's why they're getting 50%, because there's a lot of work involved, especially for a long period of time. So don't undervalue that. And Cindy, in your investor toolbox, in your Ignited Investor Toolbox, you do have the working partner duties list. And that list is 4 pages long. It has 100 plus duties in there that the working partner is taking care of. And that is a great discussion to have with the money partner. Here's all the things that I'm going to be taking care of for you in managing this investment. And then they will see the value that the working partner is bringing to the table. Would you present the letter of intent? Jasmine is asking, would you present the letter of intent to potential investors at first meeting to secure a soft commitment? Depending what that first meeting really is for, Jasmine, we have used it at first meetings and it has been successful. And mainly, remember, it's more of an outline than it is a legal document. And so a lot of the times we just went through this, not even formally, but we just kind of use it as an outline for our discussion. We never signed it with a lot of our partners that we ended up partnering with, but we did use it as a part, it formed the discussion. And then what we did is we emailed our discussion. We recapped the discussion back to our partner. So we had it sitting there at our initial meeting, and we would refer to it every once in a while just to make sure all the bases were covered of things that we did need to discuss. And if it's the first meeting where literally you're meeting for the first time, and neither party knows each other at all, I would suggest that it's probably not good to bring it out at that meeting. But if you've had a few discussions, maybe Zoom calls, maybe you know the person a little bit, you know their reputation, and now you're kind of getting together to talk about working together, then it could be at that type of meeting is when you would bring this out or start asking these questions. But let's go back to what you're really asking there, Jasmine, is if this is somebody totally brand new, they don't even really know what you do, and you're going to be talking about maybe something to do with real estate investment, probably wouldn't bring it out quite yet. You're at that point just building trust, you're building a relationship, and so that would be a different discussion. Your discussion at that point is more, what is their why? What are they trying to accomplish? And how can I assist them to get there? And that's more the discussion that I would have at that initial meeting. Okay, guys. Obviously, we talk about this stuff all the time in our Ignited program, and these are topics that we're going to be continuing on through here the month of January. If you're looking for more support, reach out to us. This is what we do: is we help you form relationships. We help you become ignited when it comes to investing as a real estate investor. So if you need help, let us know. Jules can share the link to book a call, and we can jump on a call, and I can let you know if our program is right for you, if you're ready for it or not, and we can go from there. As well, Jules, if you don't mind sharing in the chat a link again to this letter of intent. So if you guys missed that, you can then grab a copy of it for free. We have several documents that we give out free of charge. We also have, the Investor Toolbox, which is a part of the Ignited program, guys. Is you get access to every document that you're going to need when it comes to this. Not only just a letter of intent or the joint venture agreement, but also the spreadsheets to report to your partners. The cash flow sheets to help determine if it's a good property or not. The property analyzers. The list goes on and on and on about all of the different documents that we have within our Investor Toolbox. You're welcome, Colleen. Absolutely. And Daryl, thanks for being here. First time here. So thanks for being here, Daryl. I'm glad that you found that it was worth it. As well, guys, I said I was going to share the joint venture agreement. So let me do that quickly. I'm going to show you just a couple of points because we just have a few minutes left. But let's do this. And I'm going to show you a couple points on the joint venture agreement. And this is one that we actually call the easy read joint venture agreement. So this is about as simplified as they come. So depending on the relationship you have or the type of property you're buying, that would determine what type of joint venture agreement you would use. We, example, have 4 in our toolbox. We have this easy read. We have our classic, which we use for probably 90% of our JVs. We have the comprehensive, which is a little bit more comprehensive, and that's more when you are dealing with companies and maybe multiple companies or buying commercial properties or that sort of thing. And then, of course, we have a joint venture agreement for a fix and flip, because a lot of the terms and things are different if you're fixing up and flipping a property. So we have a joint venture agreement for that as well within our toolbox. And these cost, guys, about $3,000. If you go sit down with a lawyer, you're looking at about $3,000, $4,000, sometimes more, to draft up one from scratch. And so if you have a template to follow, the classic one that we share within our toolbox is exactly the one that we used for all of our 90% of our joint ventures. Okay, so they're legal documents ready to go. But notice here, I'm just going to run through this quickly. Of course, all the definitions are there. This is an important point here. You're kind of confirming that each party in this venture has received their own independent legal advice. So that's important to have in there. And this actually goes to one of the questions that we had. I can't remember who it was that asked it, but what are the duties? You know what's the duties of the money partner? Shall devote time to the joint venture as is reasonably necessary or requested by the real estate expert. Okay, that's their duties. If something is needed, we might come and ask you to help us out with something. But otherwise, what are the duties of the real estate expert or the working partner? Corey Company Inc. in this case. You notice it goes on to describe all the duties, guys, that are here. Acquiring the property, a property manager, providing the ventures with regular updates, proper insurance, making sure the taxes are paid, coordinating repairs and renovations, payment of all expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of helps to clarify a lot of the duties that the working partner, in this case, or the real estate expert, are taking care of in this particular case. Again, what's included in the initial financial contribution, this is specified a little bit clearer. You might have travel expenses, appraisals, inspection costs. What are all the things that the initial financial contribution is going to cover? That is clarified here. Now, what if additional cash down the road is needed? That is clarified in the joint venture agreement, just as we talked about on the letter of intent. But you can tell there can be so many different scenarios that this covers a lot more of those, guys. What else did I want to show you on here? Okay, buyout of interest. How does that process work if somebody wants to buy somebody out on the property? That is clarified in here. What else? What if somebody dies? One of the venturers dies. How is that handled? That is talked about in the joint venture agreement. The reserve fund is clarified. Who is going to be giving the performance report is clarified. What bank accounts are going to be used. All of these things, guys, are in this joint venture agreement for a reason. And this is 15 pages long. And believe me, This is about as simple as a joint venture agreement gets. So our regular joint venture agreements, guys, are significantly more than that. Our classic, I think, is up around 25, 26 pages. And again, it just expands on a lot of the definitions. It expands on a lot of these areas that this one is talking about here, just to make sure that all the bases are covered. And that's what a JV agreement is for. But what we do, and this is the last point before we go, guys, that I wanted to share with you, is what you can do is if you take a templated joint venture agreement like this, and you take your letter of intent signed by each party, and you give those to your real estate lawyer, and you say, here's our intention, and here's the agreement we would like to use. Can you ensure that our intentions are covered in this agreement? And now, instead of your lawyer focusing on writing a whole new legal document, you're now getting your lawyer to spend the time to make sure your intentions are covered in this document. Does that make sense? It's going to save your lawyer time. It's going to make it clear for everybody and make your job significantly easier and cost way less money, guys. So that's why we have these in our toolbox. Okay, that's it for tonight, guys. Wanted to cover the paperwork side of a joint venture tonight. You know, we first started off with the foundation as to what a joint venture is. Now we're talking about the paperwork. And as our month continues, guys, make sure to come back, because our next topics are going to be, well, how do we find our joint venture partners? And I have a really good announcement that we're going to be talking about next week. We are planning another boot camp, but I'm not releasing any details on that quite yet. We're going to finalize a few of the dates and details, but we are hoping to announce that next Tuesday. So really, really looking forward to that. Of course, our boot camp is all centered around this, guys, and around finding money, raising capital, finding partners, buying your next property without you putting a dime into it, or buying your next property without having to lift a finger, depending on which partner you are. So that's the purpose of our boot camps. So looking forward to that. That is our show for tonight, guys. Thanks for joining us. And Colleen, awesome session. You're welcome. Karina, you're welcome. Urshad, everybody else, Jasmine, Daryl, all of that is great. Perfect. Thanks for joining us, guys. And we will see you next week as we continue this theme. Take care. Have a great night.